Sam, you ready?
Ready to go.
Okay, I will bring the regular business meeting to order. We did not have a closed meeting today, so we don't have to come out of closed session. So we will now, let's see, begin with a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Are there any announcements?
Yes, I have one.
Yes.
It's brief because we'll hear more about it later, but I just want everyone to get ready for May, which is Bike Month. So there's going to be a lot of bike activities around Charlottesville, including Bike to Work and other activities. There'll be a bike valet at Fridays After 5 and a group ride to kick off Bike Month. So if you check out bikeseville.com, you can stay up to date with all of the fun bike events that are coming up in May. Thanks.
And I have one announcement, just that Charlottesville is currently accepting applications for boards and commissions now through May 1st. Current vacancies exist on the Affordable Housing Fund Committee, Board of Architectural Review, Board of Zoning Appeals, Building Code of Appeals, CDBG and Home Task Force, Minority Business Committee, Youth Council, and numerous other boards and commissions. If you Google Charlottesville boards and commissions, you can find which vacancies there are as well as apply there. Again, accepting applications through May 1st.
Thank you. Any other announcements? If not, we do have a proclamation for this month. Ms. Ostrin?
International Dark Sky Week in Charlottesville, April 21st through 28th, 2025. Whereas the aesthetic beauty and wonder of a natural night sky is a shared heritage of all humankind, and the experience of standing beneath a starry night sky inspires feelings of wonder and awe, and many people in Charlottesville live under a dome of light pollution, excessive artificial lighting at night that disrupts natural darkness, and may never experience the visual wonder or ecological and health benefits of living under a dark sky. And whereas light pollution has scientifically established economic and environmental consequences, which result in significant impacts to the ecology and human health of all communities. Whereas the city of Charlottesville is in close proximity to the Shenandoah National Park and is surrounded by rural Albemarle County, and these natural landscapes are home to many species which rely on undisturbed night environments to hunt, mate, and thrive. And whereas the city of Charlottesville is a neighbor to McCormick Observatory and Fan Mountain Observatory, both observatories operated by the Astronomy Department of the University of Virginia, and the observations and research carried out at these observatories is hampered by the effects of light pollution. And whereas the city of Charlottesville is within a reasonable distance from the James River State Park, which is one of 4 Virginia state parks designated as an international dark sky park by the International Dark Sky Association. And whereas peak spring bird migration falls during Dark Sky Week, and 80% of migrating birds fly at night and need starlight to navigate. Now therefore, the Charlottesville City Council proclaims the week of April 21st through 28th, 2025 as Dark Sky Week within the city of Charlottesville. And we ask residents to observe and ponder upon this important week and to join in raising awareness and support for protecting our dark sky resources on this week and throughout the year.
Thank you. Is someone here to accept that? Oh, great. They may want to take some pictures.
Not to mention the Lyrid meteor shower.
If you want to say something? We do. Okay, please.
Can we do that? Is this working?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for allowing us to speak and to promote this initiative. On behalf of the Dark Sky Piedmont Group, which we are members, I want to thank you for your support for dark skies and your help in raising awareness about our growing problem of light pollution. All living things on this planet have evolved with a predictable cycle of day and night. This rhythm of light and darkness is essential to our health and well-being. With the advancement of inexpensive and efficient LED outdoor lighting, the darkness of the night is disappearing at an alarming rate. Excessive light at night disrupts our sleep. It confuses migrating birds and nocturnal pollinators with deadly consequences. It obscures our views of the stars and disconnects us from our place in the larger universe. The good news is, with proper planning, we can utilize LED technology to create community-friendly lighting that works with our circadian rhythms, saves energy, and keeps us safe. LEDs can last for more than a generation, so we don't want to be stuck with lights that are too bright and a source of blinding glare. We applaud the city's efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and responsible outdoor lighting plays an important role in meeting our climate goals. Let's not overlight or light spaces when not in use, and let's certainly turn the outdoor lights off during the day. You want to add any more? You need to come to the microphone.
We did want to just point out that just walking down the downtown mall, that the lights are on, all the street lights and the trees are being uplit. So just as a reminder, as we're working towards saving energy, I don't know when the lights go on, but they're on during the day. But thank you so much for your support of the proclamation.
Thank you.
That is good. Got it.
Thank you so much. Yes, yes, we learned about that. Yes, in Bee City, yes. Thank you all so much for all that you do in the community. And we're now at the first opportunity for Community Matters. And we have 3 registered speakers, and that leaves the opportunity for 13 others to speak during this opportunity. And the first person to speak is Ms. Mills.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So my name is Lakira Mills. I reside in Greene County, and I'm a social worker. I would like to share my experience as a family advocate and a social worker navigating through systems without receiving any help and resolution to the problem that was impacted by my sister and niece. On February 14, 2025, my sister moved out of her residence in the county with her 1-year-old child due to unforeseen circumstances. My sister has a housing voucher and receives other benefits such as SSDI, EBT, and TANF. My sister has limited family support, and I was not able to take both of them in at the time due to transitioning back home. My sister and niece were left homeless with no assistance. My sister used her monthly income to stay in hotels, but all of her money ran out. I assisted my sister by calling available resources and organizations in Charlottesville. These organizations included the Homeless Hotline, which the call log was two weeks behind, Charlottesville DSS, Albemarle DSS, The Haven, MACA, Salvation Army, Shelter for Help and Emergency, Region 10, OER, Patcham, Ames, Love Inc., United Way of Greater Charlottesville, and amongst others. Each organization provided misinformation, and my sister and I was passed along from one organization to the next, with the outcome of not receiving any immediate assistance and was left with dead ends. On March 13th, I contacted the mayor of Charlottesville, Mr. Wade, through email regarding this issue. I, too, was passed along to different people, such as the city manager, Sam Sanders, and Ashley Marshall, who is the deputy city manager for social equity. The outcome of these conversations had no resolution to the problem and was provided with links to different websites to programs which has already been explored. The programs that was provided by Ms. Marshall requires a lot of steps to meet criteria and time to complete referrals, intake, and just to get overall immediate assistance. Ms. Marshall shared that the city have not found anyone to step in the gap left by the Salvation Army when they had to stop using the apartments that help families out due to the facility's needs. She also mentioned that the community doesn't have another nonprofit that has stepped into that space for families who find themselves literally homeless. So as a result of my outreach to organizations and exploring all avenues on my behalf, a mother was separated from her child by Charlottesville Department of Social Services, despite taking all the steps to prevent a child from entering in the system and being another statistic. So I pose these questions to City Council. How can system barriers be improved to assist those who are most in need? Since there hasn't been any other nonprofits to fill in the gap, what other alternatives has been explored? And lastly, what initiatives can be made on the city's behalf to combat this problem?
Thank you so much, Ms. Mills. We're debating those questions, right now. So thank you so much for your time. The next speaker is Mr. Hank Cron. Okay. The next speaker is Richard Farrell. Hey, Richard, how you doing, sir?
Hey, how y'all doing?
All right.
Do I start when the clock starts, or do I?
You start.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hey, appreciate y'all taking time to hear me, and appreciate what y'all do. I don't ever want to have to sit in y'all's seats, so thank you for your service to the city. I just here for a little thing, just a little thing. It's the 5th Street Road. I just want to make an offer and a suggestion to keep it the way it is. I was thinking about how 15 years ago, the school board had a group come in and analyze what needed to happen with the schools, and they said, we need to get rid of one of the elementary schools. And in 2010, that made sense, I guess. But I think we can look back now, or we can look now and say, I'm glad we kept all those schools,
I remember that. But
Yeah. So Anyways, Anyways, all that to say is, I like what we're doing with the city. I like that we're trying to make things more bikeable. We're trying to increase the density. But I think we can find other routes. I think Cherry would be a good candidate to maybe slow that down and make that a good bike lane for people wanting to get to the grocery store. I think 5th Street's important for not just for people who live here, but people who live in the surrounding counties coming in and out of the university, because we know it's hard to live here and work here. And the last thing I'll say, I've lived, some of y'all know me, I've lived in Prospect area for 17 years now, and I've learned from my friends in the neighborhood the best way to get to McIntyre Park or to Martin Hardware or whatever is to go through 6.5 Street or 7.5 Street. And especially during busy traffic hours, I can save you 10 to 15 minutes cutting through there. So anyways, it's not, probably the best for the folks who live there, and I get that. But I kind of think if we do that at 5th Street, we might have similar problems in Cherry or Old Lynchburg or some of those routes as well. So anyways, just wanted to throw that out. I know I'm a little late to the game. I just heard about it on the radio, and I had baseball practice last week, so I couldn't make the meeting Tuesday. So anyways, appreciate y'all. Thanks.
thank you so much, Richard. We have opportunity for 14 other speakers. Anyone else would like to speak during this opportunity? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Jim Moore, resident of Charlottesville, and I thank you for this opportunity. I've not prepared a proper presentation, so I apologize if my observations or questions don't reflect full knowledge of your current work and efforts. I have some questions about, I set through the housing status report, and I'll just run through these. My understanding is we established the Affordable Housing Fund in 2007, I think. That was 18 years ago. So has its goals been achieved? What was the total investment to date from that time? A mistake-prone AI estimates that we've spent to date probably exceeding $200 million. Is this accurate? And then I think most important, if we're concerned about availability of affordable housing, how many new units and how many unit renovations have been achieved? How many new and renovated units will result from the current CIP and the proposal tonight? How does the additional funding of SAUs contribute to the affordable housing goals in terms of reducing the cost of housing? If you acknowledge the total free market failure, why don't we look at universal SAUs? What is the long-term cost-benefit pro forma of the land bank and its per housing unit overhead cost? What will be the burden resulting from converting that land to tax-exempt status? Can multiple variables for each of the zoning official, abatement program, housing authority, and land bank be provided to prospective developers efficiently and economically? And then quickly, concerning current economic status of the city, I'd like to share some possible red flags that I ask for your consideration. Why does the city budget and budget process like this and other important processes appear void of interest by the residents? And I'm not an economist, but when your prior tax increases result in a decline in revenue, I would encourage you to at least inquire with the financial director for an assessment of that. According to the Auditor of Public Accounts, we're the third costliest Virginia city per capita. For 2023, we had the highest administrative cost in Virginia. When tax increases, I already asked you that one, what percentage of our employment depends on tax-funded sources?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comments. Anyone else would like to speak? Mr. Cox?
Yes, I'm Kevin Cox, live at 311 Fairway Avenue, and I'm here to talk trash. One particular trash can, in fact. And here's the problem. This can has not been scheduled for routine emptying and pickup by the city. It's a city-owned trash can. For 10 years now, a neighbor of that trash can has gone out regularly when the trash blows all over the street because the trash can's overflowing again, picks up the trash, calls the city, somebody comes to the trash can, takes off the top 4 or 5 inches of trash, and leaves it. The trash is rotten, been there for a long time, stinks. The bag in the trash can liner is completely shredded and it's no good anymore, okay? My friend has been doing this for 10 years. So he finally decided that he was going to try and get a resolution to the problem. He was going to try and get the city to schedule a routine pickup. So he called Public Works. Public Works said, no, not us, them. Transferred him to Neighborhood Development. Neighborhood Development said, no, not us, them. Transferred him to CAT. What did he get at CAT? Voicemail box has not been set up. The end. He called the city manager's office. Several calls. Got a very nice, polite young woman who helped him, tried to. Eventually, he got a message back. We're going to have a meeting to discuss setting up a route to discuss determining which department will pick up that one trash can, okay? You're going to have a meeting. The trash can needs to be addressed. So I'm asking you to please take care of it. You know, it's really awful. The bus stop is really awful. It's got weeds growing all over it. It's a storm sewer, a stinking storm sewer with a stinking trash can on it. It's really gross, and it says what the city really feels, how the city really feels about poor people who take the bus. If that offended you, I would invite you to go to that bus stop on a summer's day and stand there and wait for the bus on that stinking bus stop, and then you'll know what offensive is. Now, please, use your influence to persuade the city administration to take care of this once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else like to speak at this opportunity? Yes.
Someone tell me where that trash can was? I didn't hear the address.
I didn't hear it either.
Monticello Road in Linden, in front of the BP, across the street from the BP station.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Yes.
I'm not sure if this is the correct venue exactly, since I don't really have comments. I just have questions I wanted to discuss, since I am saying that Tia was talking about with housing policy. I'm very interested in just understanding what the city is doing to decrease the cost of housing and decrease like both rent and the cost to buy a house within the city, and to incentivize development. I don't feel like I understand everything that the city is doing, and I want to know if there's any materials or space where we could like have a dialogue back and forth and discuss that. So that's all.
Yeah. So I would encourage you to contact the Office of Neighborhood Solution. The director is here, but we can get that number to you tonight before you leave.
And I also would suggest looking at the 4 o'clock meeting from today. We had a big presentation about the Affordable Housing Fund.
All right.
Yeah, it's not everything that you might be looking for, but it's a
lot.
good place to start.
Yeah.
Are the 4 o'clock meetings available to the public?
Yeah.
Great.
And you can always email us at council@charlottesville.gov if you want to ask us specific questions as well.
Great, thank you.
And the other thing I would add is that a lot of the answers to the questions you're asking, you might find in the affordable housing report that was done 2 or 3 years ago, which is available through, I guess it's through the NDS website,
It's on the Community Solutions.
the Office of Community Solutions.
But Mr. Williams,
200-page report.
yeah, Mr. Williams will get you that information, the card that you have there. Anyone else like to speak at this time? There'll be another opportunity at the end, but if there's no one else to speak at this time, I ask Ms. Thomas to please read the consent agenda.
Consent agenda, number 3, April 7th, regular meeting minutes. April 14th, special meeting minutes. Number 4, a resolution to appropriate $1,304,308 from the Virginia Department of Transportation for the Monticello Second Project. Second reading.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move for adoption of the consent agenda.
I'll second it, but before we vote, I wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
And I had posed this question via email in the hopes that someone could explain, for the benefit of most of us who were not on council the last time this issue came to council, what's behind the resolution to appropriate $1.3 million for the Monticello and Second Street project, particularly because it started as a $300,000 project, and it led me to ask some questions, and I was told I could get some answers.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. I'm Michael Goddard, Deputy Director of Public Works, and I'm here to answer that question. My understanding is that you're interested in the nature of the project, as well as why it's gotten so expensive.
I think the public ought to know what it is that's going to happen there.
Okay.
And if there's some explanation about how it came to be the scope that it is now.
So the project's at the intersection of Second and Monticello. If people aren't familiar with it, it's kind of that crossing that people take from downtown to get to the Art Park. Quite a busy intersection on a Saturday morning. The project is meant to shorten what we see as too long of a crossing for pedestrians across Monticello. The way that we're going to take care of that is to widen the sidewalks and build bulb outs on the corners. So the traverse will be shorter. We're also going to make some bike modifications. So we're going to put bike boxes at the front of those intersections. And there will be a new mast arm with some new signals that go at that intersection, as well as some underground work to take care of utility the drainage in that area.
And the $1.3 million is VDOT money?
It's all VDOT money, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have motion, it's been second. Further discussion? If not, can we vote, please? Consent agenda passes 5-0. We're now at the opportunity for the city manager's report, and we're going to get several annual reports. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Sanders.
So, good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. Couple of different things. First, I'm going to allow Mr. Freeze, I think he had an announcement to share.
Very quickly, I just wanted to share on behalf of the Utilities Department that we have a new free attic insulation self-assessment tool that they've launched. This is building on a range of programs they have to support home energy efficiency. More information can be found at charlottesville.gov/utility incentives. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. In addition, I have both our police chief and fire chief. Are you making the presentation? Oh, well, our police department and fire department will be presenting their annual reports this evening as a part of my revision to how the city manager's report in the past has strictly been, or most likely, myself and maybe from time to time, comment from a deputy or not. I'm now using this time to also make presentations on things that I think are of benefit to the public, giving a little more light to certain things that we're up to. So Chief Kochis is going to go first with the police department's review of their annual report.
Right. Is there a clicker for that?
Other side.
Okay. Mayor, councilors, city manager, thank you, and good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to start with the annual report just by putting up our mission, our why, what we do, and our values. This is baked into everything we do within our organization, and so it's important to know. I know many of you have seen it. It's throughout our police department, and again, it's our guiding principle. Our strategic priorities. When I stood here before you about 2.5 years ago, I laid out 3 priorities. 1 was to address gun violence and build community partnerships. Number 2 is to improve recruitment and retention, and number 3 was the treatment and wellness of our staff. These have formed our strategic priorities, and that's how this format is laid out. So, 2024, going back for our 3-year average, right now we're looking at, for 2024, was total Part 1 crime reduced about 4% over a 3-year average. 2024 compared to 2023, we had a reduction of 10% of Part 1 crime, and Part 1 crime is what the FBI and how we report crime to the FBI is classified, and it's the most serious crime. It also includes larcenies. Aggravated assault specifically is down about 13%, burglary is down 17%, homicide is down about 75%, 24 to 23 was down about 76%. Larceny is actually up, and the driver for that is mainly caused by thefts from vehicles. Motor vehicle theft is down 23%, robbery is down about 13%, and sex offenses are down 30%, which you can't see because it's kind of cut off on the bottom. When we look at incidents involving firearms, over a 3-year average, it's actually down about 40%. So we're seeing significant reductions in that area.
Did you say 40%?
40%, yes, ma'am. Shots fired. Shots fired isn't, we don't report shots fired cases to the FBI or Uniform Crime Reporting, but it's something that we do track locally because I do think it tells a story. And so overall, for a 3-year average, it's actually down about 30%. You can see you have verified and unverified. The difference between the two, verified, if we get a call of a shooting or shots fired and we respond and find casings, a building struck or something like that, that's considered verified. Unverified is being dispatched to a shots fired, people heard it, we show up, but we couldn't find anything. We still track those numbers. Calls for service. This one is one that really stands out to me. Currently, or 2024, we responded to 60,653 calls for service. That is up from 2023, which was 40,989 calls for service, and 2022 with 37,341 calls for service. And so as you can see, we continue to be the call of choice, and the calls continue to rise. What's notable here is that of those 60,653 calls, 0.15 force was used. That is a very low number. And we'll get into some of the training and the treatment and wellness stuff that we're going to talk about at the end here that I think is contributing to that. Overdoses. So I think these numbers can be deceiving. We have seen a reduction in 2024 for our overdose calls, but I'm not sure we really know what that number is. And I say that because the availability of naloxone right now, and that's a good thing, people may overdose and save themselves, and so they won't necessarily call us. And so as the availability of naloxone is out there, we're not saying that we're not seeing the fentanyl and the opiates out there on the street. It's still there, but we're not getting the calls as much for overdoses. So that could be a good thing, but it makes it difficult to track the level of the issue. And then so 2025 for the first quarter, what we're seeing now is about a 31% reduction in Part 1 crime for the first 3 months of this year compared to the first 3 months of last year. And then our community partnerships. So anything we do in the area of community engagement is very intentional. It has to be designed to ultimately build trust within the community. And to do that, we have to build those relationships, and to do that, we have to be present. Present in times that it's not an emergency or a crisis happening. And so all of these programs that we do regularly. It's consistent. We've done a community walk in this city every day for the last 2.5 years. I've said every week for the last 2.5 years. One a week. And we will continue to do it because we continue to get great information and great engagement out there in the communities, on people's doorsteps, in their living rooms, on their front porches. It's just been a really great way, an organic way of building those relationships. Our Community Police Academy, we've expanded it to a teen community academy. We have another teen community academy going in June. These have been filled very quickly, and we have to ultimately turn down applicants that we get because it fills up quickly. We have the graduation of our first Hispanic Community Police Academy this Wednesday at the police department. That one, again, was filled up very quickly, and it's been a great experience. And then our weekly courtside chats at the Boys and Girls Club. Again, you will notice it's the consistent things to do. They cannot be one-offs. I think you see that a lot where people will do maybe coffee with a cop here or this or that there. Anything we do, we require that it be done regularly and designed to really build those relationships. Goal 2 is recruitment and retention. So currently, we are allocated 111 sworn officers. We have 4 vacancies. That is down from 30 vacancies 2.5 years ago. To put it in perspective, though, in 2016, we were allocated 130 authorized officers, right? So we are going to be, we look like we're going to be fully staffed July 1 with the new academy coming up, but that's fully staffed at 111 sworn. And as you can see with our calls for service, they're significantly higher. And if you go back to 2016, where we had 130 officers at the police department, they had 44,000 calls for service, where today we're responding to 60,000 a year. So it's just to put that in perspective. And then the diversity within our department. Yes, ma'am.
Has there been any other variable that would require you to respond to more calls than there used to be? Like a new type of thing has now been added to your docket, or is it the same?
Well,
Does
yes.
that question make sense?
Yeah, no, I think, I don't know is the answer. I can guess. We're seeing increase in responding to calls for mental health, right? I mean, we have our anchor team out there doing a ton of work, but that's one team, you know? It's very helpful, and they've been taking some of the calls that we would normally respond to. But we're just being called a lot more often than we were then. So, the diversity within our police department, 17% of our department, our sworn staff, are African-American officers, 17% women, and 7% Hispanic. Our 30-30 initiative, the goal to get to 30% women officers by 2030 is still something that we're striving for, and so we hope to get there. And then our professional staff, currently we have 3 vacancies, and that's down from 8 in 2023. And so we've made a lot of progress in the area of recruitment and retention, and I think that's the key piece, is we're keeping people now. People aren't leaving, and I think that's really important. The treatment and wellness of our staff. So why aren't people leaving? Well, last year I stood here and I said if we were going to have conversations about police reform and doing the important things that our community expects we needed to start within the four walls of that building over there. And that's what we've been doing. And so one of the things we've done, and this council approved this last year in the budget, was a new contractor for psychological screening for not only new officers, but any specialty unit. Before someone gets assigned to whether it be a special response team or anything like that, they undergo a psychological exam. Impact first responders, that's a contract that we have in our budget that helps officers who may need to go talk to someone. Officers are dealing with people on their worst day. They see some pretty bad stuff. And so they need to be taking care of themselves, and we're going to expect them to be out in the community and do the good work we ask them to do. So we're aligning the training and hiring unit with internal affairs. We did that because what we were finding is in internal affairs investigations, you identify training needs. You identify hiring issues. And so to have them all together is just a much more efficient process that we've been seeing some results in that. Internal investigations is doing all our investigations now. In the past, some complaints would be handled by like a first line supervisor or another supervisor. Now our internal affairs section does every internal affairs investigation to ensure consistency, to ensure they're done correctly, and they're all done the right way. We've created a use of force review board, or use of force review panel, so when there's a use of force, it makes its way up through its approval process, but now before it gets to me, there's a panel. That panel includes the executive director of the Police Civilian Oversight Board, who also reviews the use of force with them and then sends me a recommendation. And so that's been created. And then obviously, thanks to this council, collective bargaining has given staff a voice into working conditions and they're paying benefits. So thank you for that. And the CPD Futures program, again, we hired 30 officers in the last 2.5 years. It's a lot of cops. It's a lot of young cops. It's also an opportunity to build a culture in an organization that this community expects, and we're starting to see that pay off. And then investments in training. We've implemented what's called ICAT. It's Integration, Communication, Assessments, and Tactics. It's a new way of looking at use of force by implementing CIT, the CIT program within our use of force training. And when I watch body cam footage, I see that in play, that training come out. And it really focuses on de-escalation, understanding the difference between what's a threat and what's actually threatening, and we're seeing some good results with that. And then different training like de-escalation training, confronting bias in law enforcement, and then we recently entered into an MOU with the UVA Center for Public Safety and Justice to do research on different topics. They're right here in our backyard. We should be using them as much as we can. So. And then finally, measurements. So we have entered into an agreement with the Justice Department Cops Office. We did this last year, a program called the Collaborative Reform Effort, where they come in and do an organizational assessment of our police department. These are recommendations that they've made so far. They've been here multiple times. They've come out. I know they've met with some of you. And unfortunately, I was just notified about 2 weeks ago that the Justice Department has paused that program. And so I don't know where that's going to go at this point. But we've gotten some great feedback from that. And I'm hoping that it restarts because there's just a lot of value in that program. So, and with that, I'll take any questions.
Michael, I'll start with you, sir. You have any comments or questions?
No questions.
Okay. Natalie?
Not at the moment, thank you.
Okay. Brian?
No, I don't think I have questions. I just appreciate the update in the report. I think it's, a testament to you and to your staff, the good work that you're doing, and we appreciate it. I think that the ongoing engagement with the community is really just super essential, and it sure seems like y'all are working on that. I'm very encouraged that our staffing numbers have stabilized. That tells me that not only are we able to respond well, but we've got a culture and an organization that's sustainable. So, yeah, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Lloyd?
I just want to offer a couple thoughts. First of all, I was out on the mall Saturday evening, lots of cops there.
There
I
were.
understand why, but it was and they were all, very polite and nice and friendly, and it was good.
It's a great event.
The second thing I wanted to add, and just sort of commenting on the overall tenor of the way things have changed in the 5 years that I've been up here, almost 6 now, is just the attitude of or the culture, I guess, is a better way just to characterize it, is so much different from the police department. And I think that most people in Charlottesville who have interacted with the police department in the last year or two have come to appreciate that difference as well. And of course, it starts at the top. I appreciate your service in that respect. The one sort of substantive question I have is whether there is any effort to, A, continue to analyze the data, and B, to figure out what may flow from the data or from that analysis on the longstanding observation that people of color tend to get stopped more often than white folks. And that has led to, of course, the disproportionate minority contact reports. And for some reason, it just sort of has stopped there. And I know that you have produced some statistics over the last year or two that indicate that there is still a problem in that respect.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering whether you've made any efforts to try to figure out, okay, what's actually going on, and what do we do about it?
Trying to figure out why.
Yeah.
Why is it that there's disproportionality when it comes to traffic stops or use of force? There's no doubt that there is. I see it in the data. When I speak to my peers across the country, and the reports that they've had done, they see the same. But what nobody can tell them in any of the reports is why. Why is it? I'll concede that the implicit bias of police officers that exists with all of us. We all have implicit biases, every one of us here in this room, right? The difference is when a police officer acts on an implicit bias, that's a really bad day, okay? But that can't be the only reason why these disproportionality in stops in use of force exists. And I don't know that answer. One of the studies I haven't talked about here that we're still kind of working through is we have the Center for Policing Equity looking at that data, use of force, right? And as I've had the conversations with them and at that data, I know what it says. It says the same thing in every other urban area in this country. But why does that exist? We have to have some difficult conversations and look at this data holistically. And so the problem for us right now is we've been turning over some of this data, but some of the other data they want, like GPS data, where it happened, and these other things, we don't have in one place, right? They're in, some of them are paper files, some are here or there, and so we're working. It's just a lengthy and a robust process, but I would agree with you. I mean, trying to figure out why this is, I think, is a much more nuanced answer than just one thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know that answer. I would love to have someone tell me it.
Thank you for your report. I just had one comment. Appreciate your willingness to kind of be so available to the public. I've been with you on a couple of those community walks, and I like the fact that you and your officers are meeting the community where they are, on their front porch, or wherever they are, and particularly with the youth that are running up to the officers and greeting them, kind of creating that relationship that's needed. And for a long time, particularly in the community of low wealth and color, it wasn't there. And I see that you're generating that, you're creating that now, and it takes time, and that will help to answer the question that Lloyd brought up and that you and other police departments are working on. So,
And it's a complicated issue that I've really struggled with trying to understand myself, to be honest with you. Yeah. That question. And the numbers. I did want to say this, and then I'll let my firefighter friend come up here. But the numbers all up there look pretty good, those reductions. But I will tell you that when you have a shooting that happened this Friday night in a neighborhood, when we walk in the community, and we're going to be walking that community this week, they don't want to hear Part 1 crime's down 10%. They want to know why there wasn't a cop on that block when their house was shot up 60 times, 60 rounds, fully auto. I watched the video Friday night in this community. And so the numbers may be down, but how people feel matters as well. When we did our community walk last week on Charlton, I had a mother with her kid standing next to me who thanked us. He said, hey, you know, a year ago, my daughter was up here on this trampoline and pointed to it, and there was a shootout across the street. We had to run up and bring her down. We haven't had a shooting on this block in a year and a half. And so those are the real stories and the real impacts that we see when we're out there in these communities, when we talk about measurements and what's working or why. Yeah, these numbers, they're all great and fine, but when you're woken up at 2 in the morning for a 60 round shot in your neighborhood, you don't care about those numbers. And so we're going to continue to get out there and be in those communities that need us the most. So,
Thank you so much.
Quick question.
Yes.
This wasn't mentioned in your report, so if it takes looking up and getting back to me, that's totally fine. Are we still on track for the school speed cameras to be in place by the end of this month?
Yes, they are.
Great.
Yes.
They're in place now?
No.
We're on track.
It's on track. We just
Okay.
filmed a PSA. I reviewed it this morning.
Okay.
Actually, to push out, and so we'll be getting that out to the community. But those will be up very soon.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And just to Lori's point earlier, just because I think it's important, my memory was from and I just looked it up to verify it, from the disproportionate minority contact report, that one of the big areas they said they didn't investigate was socioeconomic status, and they attempted to use education level and employment status as a proxy for it, but they acknowledged that was very imperfect. But they found a very strong correlation with those variables as well as nationally. And in that conversation at the time, a big part of it was because of the history of urban renewal and redlining. There's a systematic destruction of black wealth. The average black income in Charlottesville is 50% AMI. It's more than double that for your average white family. And just so that socioeconomic variable, in addition to the implicit bias in the report, was highlighted as very important. And because of policy decisions made in the decades prior, there's a systematic policy reason there's that level of disparity in educational attainment and income and wealth. But anyway, I just think it's a very important conversation.
I agree with you, sir. Absolutely is.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mayor Wade, members of council, Mr. Sanders, Madam Clerk, members of staff, good evening. It's an honor to stand before you as your fire chief and serve and represent the members, men and women of the Charlottesville Fire Department. I'm accompanied tonight by my 3 deputy chiefs, and I'm proud to introduce you tonight to my senior deputy chief of operations to present to you our department's annual report highlights. I'll remain for the remainder of the presentation, so if you have any questions.
Good evening. Mayor Wade, councilors, Ms. Thomas, Mr. Sanders. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to present an overview of our 2024 annual report on behalf of Fire Chief Thomas. But before we get into it, I would like to at least talk a little bit about our department and as far as what we are. We are much more than a fire department. Some people know that, some people don't, but we want to put that out there. We are what's known in the industry as an all hazards department, meaning we handle fire, EMS, hazardous materials, technical rescue incidents, and we also play a hand in emergency management here in the city. We're staffed with 127 full-time employees. We had a hiring event, or rather a skills assessment and agility test that started today, and hopefully at the conclusion of that, within the next 60 days, we should be at full staff. One of the things that's riddled, or that's all through our report, that is pretty important for us in the city in whole, is the fact that the Charlottesville Fire Department is an ISO Class 1 department. The ISO Class 1 is an insurance services organization ranking. It's the highest ranking that signifies an exemplary fire capacity in a locality. Nationwide, there's about 38,000 fire departments. We're one of just shy of 500 departments that carry that ranking. We also are a internationally accredited agency through the Center for Public Safety Excellence. That organization gives us an accreditation model that's based off self-assessment and that promotes excellence through continuous improvement. And that helps us by providing a quality service to the committee. To talk about the two together, that puts us in a totally different realm. Of those same 38,000 departments across the nation, we're one of 114 departments that hold both of those certifications, and we're one of 7 in the Commonwealth that hold that certification. We're alongside the City of Fairfax, Newport News, Fairfax County, Hampton, Henrico, and Roanoke. So let's talk about our experience for last year as far as when you see the trucks going up and down the road. We ran 7,800 calls, give or take, for service. Last year we were down from 2023 about 0.3%, but right now we're trending to be up as much as 7% through March of 2025 versus 2024. 64% of our total calls are related to EMS services. I pulled out a couple of those types that are kind of, for a patient, are high-risk, low-frequency events. Those are your cardiac arrest, your strokes, your opioid overdoses, and those types of things. We responded to 55 incidences of cardiac arrest in 2024, and of those 55, we had a return of spontaneous circulation on 20 of those 55 cardiac arrests. Strokes are a little bit tricky because they are actual true strokes, and then they are also sometimes dispatched as a stroke because of it's got low blood sugar or high blood sugar, or they kind of get grouped together. But we responded to 1,338 of those, and of those, 49 of those incidents were marked positive for stroke symptoms that we alerted the hospital for and turned them over for final definitive care. Overdoses, CFD, much like Chief Kochis' numbers, we only looked at CFD, not CFD and cars combined, although the numbers were not that far off. 73 incidences of opioid overdoses within the city. Our crews administered Narcan on 71% of those incidents, and of those 73 responses, 88% of the patients showed improvement in their respiratory rate, and of those also showed 63% of them showed an increase in their cognitive ability after the administration of Narcan. Fire and other types of calls accounted for 36% of our car load for 2024. We picked 5 fires that we had in the city: Carlton Avenue, 5th Street Southwest, Virginia, Monticello, and Palatine Avenue. We experienced a loss of just shy of $1 million, which sounds like a lot, but we also saved a little over $5.5 million of personal property in the city through our response. Employee development.
Are you able to do a sampling? Sorry to interrupt. Can you go back? Could you give sort of a sampling of what caused those fires, the big 5 that you just?
I would have to look those up individually.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
The fires that we pulled out, like the house, a vacant house on 5th Street was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
That, I don't know if Joe is, have you rolled on those?
It was no cause due to the amount of damage to that building.
I see.
It was a vacant structure. It was burned up and sounded pretty bad.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
We can follow up.
All right, great.
I've got a quick question too.
Yes.
On the same slide.
Sure. Previous slide?
Yes, please.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. And I don't know which category this would fall into. Maybe it's special incident. Do you all go to car accidents as well?
We do.
Okay. Does that fall, or car crashes, does that fall under special
So
incidents?
everything
or-
that's not an EMS call, meaning us rendering treatment for an individual, would fall into all of these other categories: cardiac arrest, fires, false alarms, smoke detector installations, car accidents, persons trapped above, below ground, anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And how do we get to have a workforce that's developed? We dedicated 61,164 hours to training, which was broken down between specific fire-related training, recruit training or new hire training, and EMS training. Some value adds to the department and to the city. Obviously, at the gracious approval of you all, just like Chief Koch just spoke to, the labor agreement was good. It did give our employees a voice for wages and benefits and working conditions. Alternative Response Team, Anchor, we mentioned, that's a great community partnership between us, social services, and the police department. 2024 also brought a new fire station coming out of the ground for the fifth time in the city's history. ISO, we completed, required a bit of information that was sent in. We were then recommended to go in front of the council for them. We scored enough points to go to the council for recommendation to be ISO 1 again. We're still waiting on the final notification of that. And just so you have an understanding of that process, the fire department itself is only responsible for about 50% of that process. The remaining balance, that remaining 50%, we rely on communications from the communications center, which we also support regionally, and our water department. It's broken up to about 40 and 10%. So without their help, we could not continue to maintain that status. Accreditation is a 5-year process. We're in between submissions for reaccreditation, but we have to complete an annual compliance report. We submitted that last year. The DEA changed some rulings in the Commonwealth about pharmacies, and specifically for us, drug kits, and how they're exchanged at the hospital. It put that burden over on us specifically and solely. So we had to apply for a pharmaceutical license. We had our medical director had to give us approval to buy drugs under his license. We had to do some security work, which all resulted in us hiring a pharmacy technician to provide oversight for the intake, disposal, and the use of those drugs in the department. So with that, I'll thank you and field any questions that you might have.
Yeah. Brian, I'll start with you first.
Yeah, I just say similar to the police department. I really appreciate the work that y'all do and appreciate these slides. I think they're very informative. Really impressed with the accreditation. I know that those things, I used to work in industry. I know that they're hard to get and they reflect a lot of effort and quality on our part, y'all's part. So just want to thank you all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I might add that we have been accredited through SIPSI 4 different times. While not consecutive, we weren't consecutive because of our own request. We didn't feel we were ready to go for accreditation in that off year. So we paused it and then reapplied and we're accredited. But it's our 4th time being accredited.
Yes, big deal.
Good. Lloyd?
I just, having thanked the police department for being out on Saturday night, I want to thank the members of the fire department for being out there on Saturday night too.
Yes.
But I want it to go unnoticed.
Thank you.
I heard that our fire department might be getting some smaller sized fire trucks. Is that true? Okay, the reason.
News to us.
The reason why I ask is because sometimes we hear that there's additional steps that the this is not specifically just fire department, but EMS in general asks for, like when someone applies to build housing, then the fire department says, well, we have to make sure we can turn a fire truck around in that road, and if not, then that housing can't be developed. And so one of the questions that we hear from housing advocates is, well, can't we get smaller fire trucks? And so someone told me that we might be getting some, and so maybe that's not accurate. But
No, and some of what we're up against in that realm of things are the building code, codes that we've adopted, and the specifications of the apparatus based off of our need to meet all of these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have minimum standards for fire trucks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Are our smallest trucks at that minimum, or are they bigger? They're at the minimum. Okay, thank you.
Michael?
That made me think of a very random question, but I've read in some localities there's a problem of basically monopolization of getting fire trucks. Like there's only one vendor they can use, and I know we've had costs go up, and the time to actually get a fire truck has significantly gone up, and it may connect with even the flexibility, in the products you can even get. Are we in a similar situation of other localities where there's basically like one game in town for where we can go?
No, I think what you're speaking to is the requested federal investigation into the Rev Group practices. Rev Group represents several different brands, but they all fall under that one conglomeration. We have previously purchased from Rev Group, but don't currently have any trucks on order with Rev Group. But it doesn't discount the fact that our lead times are long, and it's not just in fire apparatus. We ordered an ambulance prior to July, and that contract is set to be filled in 30 months.
All right.
30 months from July or 30 months from now?
30 months from when we inked the contract.
Wow.
No, that's helpful, and
Yeah,
good to know we're not with them.
To kind of put that in a realm of things, and I don't want to misspeak for Will. Will's taken over when he came to us, taking over Fleet. Prior, it was me, so I'll speak a little bit to it. We have in the past purchased apparatus through different programs to get those build times down, but we had to make cuts on options and special options to meet our needs. But we did that strategically because we knew that we could get those options added at an aftermarket vendor. So the options that we cut off were strategic. That cut what was projected to be a 40-month build time down to 28 months. But we still do have one full custom pumper that's a 40-month delivery. And an aerial now, a tiller, which is we use quite regularly. Right now, those build times are approaching 60 months. So we've been working with Chrissy a great deal to get ahead of the CIP process to keep our fleet replacement on track.
No, that's very helpful. Yeah, and just for the public, I think we had a similar conversation with trash pickup. It's kind of interesting, peek under the hood of the ways kind of monopolization, private equity, and supply chains impact localities in ways we might not necessarily be thinking of.
Yeah, and we're pretty blessed that we're healthy right now, both from an employee standpoint, a department standpoint, and an apparatus standpoint, meaning we have trucks. Our neighboring department had an unfortunate incident over the weekend, and depending on what happens to that particular piece of apparatus, they could be out many of those months waiting on a truck.
The only other question I had is, I doubt we're in this situation because we're way less rural, but I remember Albemarle had a stat that just kind of blew my mind in terms of what percentage of calls for service were people basically essentially using that call to get transportation to a more routine doctor's appointment for preventative care or other basic non-emergency services. What is that, like a significant volume of calls for services you get?
Yeah, I don't think that's germane to any one locality. I mean, we experience that. I don't have a number for you off the top of my head to tell you what that's like, but I know our providers in the field face that pretty much on the daily.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I have one quick follow-up. You mentioned that there's a minimum for size of trucks. Who sets that minimum? Is it state or local, or where does
The
that?
department does.
Our local department
We
sets
do,
it?
yes.
Okay, and what, is there like a best practice manual that you're working from, or who's?
So it
where's
really
that?
depends on the piece of apparatus we're purchasing.
Mm-hmm.
The pumpers we're trying to keep around 32 feet long. The tiller that we have is 64 feet long, but remember that truck articulates in the middle. We do have a tower ladder that is somewhere in between those and takes a little bit more distance to turn around. But we're investigating ways to potentially shorten that up too.
Okay, thank you.
Just had a couple of comments. One, had some friends or, constituents that actually, were part of those emergency calls, so thank you for your life-saving service to the community. And secondly, a few weeks ago, I kind of did step outside with Sleep Out Seaville to kind of bring awareness to the unhoused. It was a real uncomfortable night. I got an idea of what it's like to be unhoused, but throughout the entire night, I heard the fire engines and, ambulances and things throughout the entire night. I didn't realize that it's truly a 24-hour service, and it doesn't necessarily slow down at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. So I got a broader appreciation of you all's work as well. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay.
One more.
Okay.
Good evening again. So this is my check-in, my quarterly check-in with council and the public, just to kind of share with you all highlights as it relates to the work plan that I follow. Just remind everybody, I rolled out work plans across the city organization last year and asked the lead team to begin using a tool that would help them plan their work. And the goal would be for you to take the calendar year and lay it all out over the next 12 months associated with the budget that you've been allocated, and try your best to deliver on the things that were a part of that plan. Because the key to developing the plan, of course, is then once you finish, you now have to work the plan. So this is my quarterly update. I'm saving you the full layout document that will be posted online tomorrow. So anyone who is interested in what we've been up to can go to the transparency portal or to the city manager's page, and the update will be there. I'm just going to walk you through a few slides just as a highlight for this third quarter. So we're going to talk a little bit about placemaking, capacity building, how we've been leveraging opportunities, and then just give you a few hints of visible progress, because I like to toot the horn of the team, because we don't always hear that or get that. In the making place area, just looking at Jordan Park Bridge, Tom Tom Festival, US 29 Bridge, and then Seaville Spectacular. I have a few things on that. So I had the great fortune of being a part of the Jordan Park Bridge ribbon cutting just last week and a half ago. It's a great moment to have our parks team along with our community solutions team, who worked really hard and diligent on getting this bridge added. This is a connection in Jordan Park, where people in the past have been basically traversing rocks at their own risk, and now we've actually made it possible for it to be a multimodal tool and amenity. So it's now for bikes, for walking, for wheelchairs, for anyone who wants to get to the other side in a much more safe manner. So these are always fun moments, and even in the rain, we found a reason to celebrate. And we brought Alexander out to have him cut the ribbon as a member of the Belmont Carlton neighborhood. Tom had a great time last week. I actually was on stage with Jim Ryan and Jeff Richardson for a conversation about innovation, something that hasn't happened since I've been here, and something that we've been trying to make more regular, more consistent. One, to demonstrate that regional is the thing, and it is possible for the three of us to get along, and we can do it in public just the same as we can behind closed doors. So it was a great opportunity for us to do that. The mayor was on full display with Wendy Horton from UVA Health. I did not realize that they are bosom buddies. I mean, they have a lot going on between the two of them, which is great for us as well, because that means that there's a connection into further conversations. And I was a judge at the crowdfunded pitch night last week, as well as a part of Tom Tom. It was my first time attending. And if you could look really hard, you can see in the back were the winners for the night, and that was the food co-op for the grocery store proposed for Fifeville. So it was a great moment to be a part of that recognition as well. This is hard to read, and this is how a lot of people in the engineering space within the city work. It's the only version of what I have. But I'm just pointing out to everyone, there's a pedestrian bridge that is being constructed as we speak. It's to connect a pedestrian from Seminole Square to Stonefield. It's going to go across US 29. That bridge is now going to have markers on it, and those markers will represent the county, city, and the university as a placemaking project, and on both sides of that bridge. So when you come to town or leaving town, you get a chance to recognize where are you. And that is important for placemaking and just branding the fact that we are proud of ourselves and welcome to our community. And we're bringing fireworks back. So if you hadn't heard, they're coming back, fireworks on the mountain. This July 4th, I was given a task of trying to figure out how we could get it back next year. And I thankfully found that a lot of people have been talking about it, so it was easier for us to go ahead and try to pull it off this year. So they are back this 4th of July weekend, and then we will make them even better next year as we celebrate Virginia 250, as well as the Downtown Mall's 50th anniversary. We're making moves within the city. I always like to give you all just updates on the big highlights of big positions. Joe Gilkerson, our new HR director, started last week. Our new city attorney joins the team on May 14th, and we are interviewing for an emergency management coordinator as we speak. We filled those 3 seats, and the leadership team for the city is filled for the first time in quite some time. And then I'm going to walk you through a few of the opportunities that we're working on. I have to give Deputy Marshall big props for taking advantage of opportunities to get the city of Charlottesville actually recognized nationally. In 3 different moments, we have opportunities to bring an opportunity for peer sharing, as well as, in some cases, some small resources to make it possible for us to kind of innovate around issues that we have here local in this community, but we have the benefit of working some of those things out with peer communities that are struggling and dealing with some of the same things. So I'm just going to highlight for you real quickly. She and Chris Engel were a part of the ICMA Economic Mobility and Opportunity Cohort. It's an opportunity for us to work with community members who are just trying to get ahead in that economic prosperity space. If you think about in your strategic outcome areas, you identified economic prosperity as a priority area. And this is an example of how we are working to implement that by looking for ways to bring resources and various innovations to the table for here at the City of Charlottesville. We can implement those things, and we're doing it in partnership with other communities and kind of learn from others as well. The National League of Cities Centering All People Practitioners Cohort, again, another opportunity to express and share things that we may be doing. The goal, hopefully, that the local infrastructure hub will still be available since the federal government is doing things, and we hope they will stop doing things so that we can access the funding that we tried to get into this for. But ideally, if you look under that 3rd bullet under project, is to seek funding for safe streets, brownfields, or rail transportation, and doing so while showing equity in the work that we do. We know that last bit they don't want to hear about, but we're not going to stop doing the work that we need to do. And then lastly, we have applied, and we feel like good news is coming, so we're waiting to hear if we have been approved for the National League of Cities Southern Cities Economic Initiative. And this one is important because we were able to bring the United Way of Greater Charlottesville in as a partner, and I am interested in how many times we can be a part of initiatives like that and bring some of our local partners to those opportunities to, again, go and engage with our peers around the country. In some cases, they've figured it out, so we can learn from them. But in other ways, we can figure out things together and hopefully make a difference right here at home. So we're also making progress. These are just some examples. This was for Tom Tom this weekend. There were a few of us that we nerded out about this, like very excited about the idea that we were able to put barriers on the mall that are not trucks, that belong to the city government, that are not manned by individuals that I'm paying to stand out there and watch and wait for nothing and hope that nothing happens. But now I actually have the ability to, we were in this case, rent Meridian barriers, deploy those, and then use our resources in a much better way. By all accounts, they worked. Thankfully, there was no need for them to work, but the goal is to have them in place. And as I shared with you all when I talked to you about this last week, the goal is that I'll be coming and asking you to spend money on this. Because what we know that happened here in 2017, this is the kind of stuff that we should have actually done immediately after to outfit this city with the right tools. And this is a great example of the right tool that's being deployed around the world. And I believe there's a reason for Charlottesville to have its own version. So I'll be bringing that to you shortly. As an example, it's just an example of recent activities. I have now really gotten to our team in that they love to send me, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, and it's hard for me to keep track of all the things that we're doing because we're doing better at a lot of things. But just to show you that we were able to save some money on the Quarry Monticello sidewalk project, and with the savings, we're adding 4 crosswalks here. And while I know that may be small, and while I know that there are many more crosswalks that people want, and while I know there are certain crosswalks that people would prioritize, I'm just asking everybody to appreciate that more crosswalks are happening. So for that, we will continue to do this work, and the goal is to make it safe wherever we need to make it safe, and to continue to find ways to maximize the work that we're doing so that we can save funds and use them in other ways and get more of our safety priorities implemented across the city. And again, something to nerd out about. We had an issue with the bus shelter that we put in the Belmont Park. We had to take it up. We had to start all over. Now the bus shelter is back. I actually walked this weekend, walked past it I don't know how many times, and was proud of the idea that we got the bus shelter done. I have now said, please get Midway Manor's bus shelter done because I owe Mary Carey a snack and sit on the bench with her and say, now, isn't this nice? So the goal is for us to try to get that done. But and this is the great work of the team, the transportation team, the team at CAT, who's been working to make sure that we get these amenities across our entire network. And one of the benefits, one of the beautiful things that we're working on right now is it's not just in the city, we're in the county, setting up opportunities for us to deploy these amenities as well. So I just thought I would take a moment to share with you some of the things that make me smile because there are so many other things that don't. And that's it. That's what I got for you. Are there any questions? I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry.
Any questions? Yeah, Chrissy heard
I got
that.
a little loose, Chrissy.
Yeah. Any?
Trying to have fun, do my job, that's all.
Yeah.
I would only highlight for the community, these are all great, and these, I don't want to say they're small because they take a lot of work, but these kind of things that maybe for the community can see small build up to be the foundation of what a high quality of life and functioning city government services are. But I would just also, all this is also occurring in the context of city government doing really big things with implementing collective bargaining, close to 10 major affordable housing projects, expansion of bus service, implementation of the climate action plan. So it's not just this. I mean, there's some really foundational changes that have been going on as well. So just appreciate the update.
Thank you. You got the message.
Yes, and I'm sure other councilors have heard of the strong support for your leadership throughout the community. They appreciate your matter-of-factness and just getting things done, bringing stability back at leadership. So to all these other things that, we've been hearing about from 4 o'clock to now, it's been really, it would have been really difficult for those things to take place without your vision and strong leadership. So thank you.
All of us. Takes a team.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is a public hearing for the City of Charlottesville proposed real property tax. Chrissy?
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
We are almost done with the 26 budget. So close.
Yeah.
Tonight is our formal public hearing on the tax rates, or the real estate tax rate for the 2026 budget, the 2025 calendar year. As you'll recall from all of our budget work sessions, there were no changes to any of the tax rates. And so tonight is a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak on those. And with that, I'll answer any questions or open it up to the public hearing.
Okay. Any questions? I think we've had several. Okay, I will now open up the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on the proposed real estate property tax? Mr. Moore?
Thank you again for this opportunity. I guess I want to say, again, that according to your advertisement for this hearing, you did, according to the legal language of the advertisement mandated by the state, you have effectuated an effective tax rate increase. So just to clarify the record, that is what you've done. I want to reiterate that increasing your housing tax rate by more than 3 times inflation continues to be a burden on residents, possibly even more so on low-income residents. On top of this, you're effectively, you have an effective 9% increase on your water tax revenues because the water rates are going up, and I assume, I'm pretty sure you're not adjusting your rate to compensate. That also burdens residents. These things add up. In terms of the notice, I'm done with the issue over the property tax increase notice that you're supposed to do, but just for your information, as of today, I still can't find one that's required at City Hall, and your lobby receptionist is not aware of any. In terms of other effects to housing, I know of at least 2 property investors that are simply reluctant to develop new housing without some assurance that your cost increases, city cost increases, will at some point in the future align with inflation. This is a concern for people that are going to invest in Charlottesville. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak on the proposed real estate property tax? If, oh.
I just wanted to ask, is there any, just to my understanding, a property tax could like having a high property tax would cause companies to be less interested in developing properties in theory. But if it was a tax on the land itself, then it wouldn't have that effect, right? Is there a reason why the tax is on properties themselves rather than being just a direct tax on land value?
So we're not going to respond right now, but I would love to sit down and talk with you sometime. If you can make sure we get your contact information, we can chat. Any other questions and things you might have about local government, love to get. Any other questions or comments?
No, so I don't have much prepared, so I'm just.
No, that's fine.
Thinking I want to discuss.
Anyone else like to speak on the proposed real estate property tax? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing, and okay, so the next item, so that's right, Tim, I'm just going to the next item, the ordinance it's established an annual tax levy for the year 2025. It's the first of 2 readings. Ms. Hamill?
Good evening again. So this is just a first reading of the actual ordinance. So we had the first action was the public hearing, and the ordinance actually specifies the rates. Happy to answer any questions there if you have any.
Yeah, do we have any questions? Lloyd, do you have anything?
One thing I wanted to just ask about is related to this person's question. I think that was there a bill that was passed this year that allows for differential tax rates on the land as opposed to the development?
A land value tax?
I'm not sure what it's called, but.
It was in our legislative packet, but it did not make it, it did not pass.
I know it made it
So we
through
don't have
one
the legal-
step,
yeah.
it didn't make it through, okay, so.
Thank you,
Yeah.
So, yeah, because we're a Dillon Rural state, we
Yeah.
can't do that without General Assembly approval. General Assembly did not approve it this year, but
I
we're.
thought that was the case, but I wasn't sure. So in part, ma'am, that's an answer to your question. We don't have the authority to do it that way, but we have asked for the authority to do it that way. So anyway, that's the only question I had. Thank you.
And this is the same document that we've seen before, right? It's in the packet.
You haven't actually seen this ordinance before tonight's packet, but the rates are all the same as of last year. The only exception is the energy efficiency buildings. I think last year that was 48 cents, it's 49 cents, but it wasn't an increase. That was actually a Scrivener's error.
That poor Scrivener.
I know.
Yeah.
I'd also like to just add that on last Monday, the physical notice for the public hearing was published and posted at the front entrance where the billboard is, the digital board.
Yeah.
Also, there's a board for announcements that's going up the side stairwell to council chamber. So it's there and it's in the packet, so it's in several places.
Yeah, yeah, I saw it on the billboard as well. So if there's no, can we place this on consent agenda for
Thursday.
Thursday?
There's no consent, it's just the one item.
It's just the one item, so
Yeah.
anyway, that's right, okay. So, okay.
Great.
So,
We're good.
okay, thank you. Then, the next item we have on the agenda is a resolution establishing the 2025 tax year, for the tax year personal property tax relief percentage.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Ms. Thomas, Mr. City Manager, this is the highlight of my year. Personal property tax relief we owe to Governor Gilmore, who ran on a platform of doing away with personal property tax. The General Assembly attempted to do that for a number of years by offsetting local revenues with state revenues until they realized it was not affordable. Around 2007 or 8, the amount that was given to localities in the form of a grant was capped, and so the city of Charlottesville has gotten the same amount of money from the state ever since then, and we apply that to offset the cost or the tax to our taxpayers. We have to figure out what percentage of the tax on personal property is covered by that grant of money, which has not changed. It's about $3.5 million. And as you have the fleet, the size of the fleet increases, the number of vehicles in the city, the cost of vehicles goes up or down, that number changes. It usually shrinks. So this year, we are projecting, or we are recommending, a personal property tax relief rate of 31%. All vehicles valued $1,500 or less get 100% tax relief, and then that percentage would be applied to the first $20,000 of value of qualifying vehicles. So that's sort of the 30,000 foot.
Yes, sir.
So we have a resolution that we ask you to pass every year.
Remind us what the qualifying vehicle, how does a vehicle qualify for that?
It has to be a personal use vehicle. In other words, the business use cannot be less than, or cannot be more than 50% business use. It has to be owned by a natural person. There's a few criteria that are stipulated in state code. I think it's in 58.1-3501. And so if it meets all those criteria, then it's eligible for personal property tax relief.
And does that automatically get granted to people, or do they have to apply for it?
It automatically gets granted as long as, when we're doing the book, we check for vehicles that are owned by businesses. We check Schedule Cs to see if people declare depreciation on their tax. If you take depreciation on the vehicle, then that's a business vehicle, so it's not gonna qualify. So some people get it, and then it gets taken away after audit, but it's automatic.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? If not, if I can get a motion to approve the resolution?
I'd move its approval.
Second.
Okay, can we vote? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
The next item we have on the agenda is a public hearing for the 25-26 annual action plan for the city's community block, community development block grants and home investment partnership programs and the corresponding funding recommendation. So, Anthony.
Hi, good afternoon, councilors, Mayor Wade, Ms. Thomas, members of the public. My name is Anthony Warren, and I am pleased to be here from the city's Office of Community Solutions to discuss once more our community development block grant and home programs. It's part of the highlight of my job to do this. I am here to kind of present a little bit of the background for the public about why we're doing this, what it involves. I will be very quick. We are an entitlement community as recognized by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and we've been for many years participating in the community development block grant and home programs in support of community development programs throughout the city. We just recently had a ribbon cutting that was a very wonderful celebration of this kind of work. Kind of helped remind me of why we do what we do. Each year we are required to submit to HUD a locally approved annual action plan that kind of highlights our community needs assessment and outlines steps that we're going to take to try to meet goals that were established back in our 2023 5-year consolidated plan. This is an update to the plan that we presented last year, kind of a little refinement. Part of the challenge is, as was commented earlier about the national uncertainty, is that we're trying to provide to you very precise values based on very imprecise data. Specifically, we have no notice yet from HUD as to how much money we will get for either of these two programs, whether that money will actually come through. So in lieu of that, we have been given guidance by HUD that we take last year's allocation and use those as a basis, and then make recommendations to be approved, and then if the final allocations come in below what was anticipated, we adjust those appropriately. If the, knock on wood, allocations come in higher, then we come back to you and figure out what to do with that difference. All volunteer members of the CDBG and Home Task Force struggle each year trying to address a huge range of applications with a very small pot of money. We can talk about some of the individual requests if you want. Part of the challenge is that in most years, the majority of the applications and the largest amount of funds requested comes in under a category that HUD calls public services activities. Those typically tend to be very person-oriented as opposed to economic development or infrastructure or housing activities. Unfortunately, that is the one area of eligible activities that is the most constrained by HUD regulations in terms of how much can be allocated. So no more than a locality like ours can allocate no more than 15% of awarded funds per year towards those activities. This year, the kind of delta between how much we anticipate being able to award and how much was asked for was over $300,000. And that results in a lot of very difficult conversations. You're being asked to consider today the annual action plan, which is the first resolution, which is a very comprehensive, long, detailed document. It is not very dissimilar from the plan that was reviewed and approved last year. Copy is available on the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission website. Link is in the staff memo packet. And related to that are two slates of funding recommendations for the two different programs based on, again, the amount of money that was received last year, and with the caveat that we, as of today, have no idea how much money, if any, we will get going forward. So with that, I will also add that the task force makes concrete funding recommendations every year, all volunteer members. The only requirement is that you are an adult resident of the city of Charlottesville. There is no citizenship requirement to serve on the commission. If you are interested, you can find more information either at our office or on the clerk of council's office. I invite people to participate because it actually contributes to concrete funding recommendations every year. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
So the CDBG plan that we have here is based off the one that you did last year? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, in 2023, we developed and submitted to HUD a 5-year consolidated plan that outlined kind of long-term goals around the areas of economic development, affordable housing, public services, infrastructure a little bit. We don't do as much of that because there are other pools of money for that.
So this is the one
And this
year-
is an updated one-year plan. It's essentially the same document as was approved last year with a different slate of funding recommendations and a little bit of update on the needs assessment.
Okay.
Michael, you have any questions at this point? Natalie? Okay. Lloyd, you?
Just, I know that we traded some emails about this earlier. I just want to make sure that I understand the appropriation that is listed on page 101 of our packet. It says, whereas the city of Charlottesville has been advised, blah, 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 in the approximate amount of $438,617. Do we have any real reason to think that that's what we're going to get, or is that simply last year's number?
It's essentially last year's number. We have no idea until that announcement is made by the White House and HUD national leadership each year. HUD recognizes that the announcement might not be made in a timely manner for us to do everything we need to do on a local basis, so they recommend that you use last year's numbers and then adjust as needed. Problem with that is last year we received about 6% more in CDBG funding, which was great. We were able to find great use for that. But the affordable housing home funds were cut by 17%, which was a very shocking and hard to wrap our brains around kind of cut. So no indication yet as to what the final funding will be, if any.
So I guess I was just trying to check the math. I didn't quite have time to finish the process, but my understanding as I look at the numbers on pages 101 and 102 is that I don't think they come anywhere near $438,000 if you add them all up.
And are we talking about the Community Development Block Grant Resolution?
I'm looking at the appropriation where it says, be it resolved, whereas we're getting $438,617, now be it resolved that we're apparently going to spend money in the following ways. And let's see, 195,235. It works out to about $387,000 more or less.
Apologies. On the second page of that resolution, are there two lines under programmatic funds?
There's one
on
line.
the version that you have? Okay, I apologize. I could have brought updated copies. In the online packet is an updated one that kind of identifies that delta that you were talking about.
Okay.
So essentially, what the task force did was they reviewed all the applications, they went through all the deliberations, and they did the largest part of the discussion about the CDBG funding awards was around the public services activities. The other categories were relatively easier to consider because they weren't limited. And so what they chose to do was to fund those at 100% of the requested amount, which you should see there. And then because they did not want to, because we do not have concrete numbers and they did not want to award more than 100% of the requested funds, their funding recommendations resulted in a discrepancy of $49,601.05, which in the version that was originally uploaded in the packet was left for further discussion, but in the uploaded version that's on there now is identified as unallocated reserve. And so what that means is those are funds that the task force did not feel they were able to award because of that 15% cap on the public services activities, and they did not want to award more than 100% of requested funds, which means that similar to 2 years ago, you might remember that there was a council priority for public facilities and infrastructure of about $89,000, and we hadn't received an application at that time. That money was held in reserve, and then when a project came forth, the Beacon Commercial Kitchen, that was a great fit in terms of HUD national priorities, we brought that back before council to consider funding that. So I apologize. I should have brought updated printed copies for you.
So there's some nice slides that start on page 110, maybe 111.
Before we go to that, could I ask a question about the unallocated funds?
It might make sense when you go through the slides, but that's fine.
Well, my concern is there any danger similar to our, when we had the CARES Act money and the money from the feds, that if it wasn't allocated or spent by a certain time, they could retract it and take it back? Do we have any concerns that they would do that with this?
First of all, these are anticipated numbers, so these numbers do not exist as of yet until HUD announces the numbers. So they are recommendations based on what we hope to get. Leaving it categorized like this does not necessarily pose any more of a risk than any other activity that we could choose to fund. Because it would be on the ledger, it would be allocated into a category. Other localities I've checked have done similar things. That being said, we live in interesting times, so I do not know. Part of the concern with the CARES Act and the coronavirus funding were the specific categories in which those fundings existed, drawing particular attention to potentially have them drawn back. That doesn't exist to my understanding as of this right now. And at any time, if these numbers do come through and this reserve actually comes to pass, anytime council or staff identified and brought before council some worthy activity, provided it doesn't fall in that public services category, council could award those funds.
So could
Got
you,
it. Thanks.
could you go to page 115? Overview of funding requests received for, what does PY mean? Program year.
Yes, so program year.
Okay, so is this the detailed list of what you guys started with?
This is an overview of the applications that were actually received and the different categories that they are sorted in based on the HUD criteria.
Okay.
And you can see that the majority of them fall under that public services programs.
So this is what was requested.
Right.
And
And
then-
if you go up to the top, pardon me, I don't mean to interrupt. If you go up to the programmatic funding and set-asides, I tried to identify, if we received the amount of funding that we did last year, the amount that would be eligible for award for public services would be 65,000 something.
Where is that?
In the second box up at the top with the gray coloring, programmatic funding and set-asides.
Okay. And then the next slide is what y'all recommended?
Yes, these are the recommended awards.
So a total of 521,000. And these pieces below add up to those totals?
Yes, with the caveat that there are 4 categories of CDBG funding, and then the 1 category at the bottom for home funding.
Right.
And kind of the way I have it set up is those numbers would be in red if they didn't match the numbers up at the very top 2 boxes.
Okay. All right,
and then
so this is what you're anticipating you'll get, and this will, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And the added detail of the decimal values was added for Planning Commission to kind of show those decimal values continue in very fine detail.
Okay.
That would be used to adjust based on how
So
funding
what is it
comes in.
that we need to vote on?
Well, we need to have a public hearing first. I just want to, any other questions or comments from council on this?
Just for the public's benefit, I'll just highlight that the recommended funding includes projects like the Community Land Trust Affordable Housing Project, homelessness services by the Haven, AHIP doing critical home repairs for older homes to keep them livable. So just wanted to highlight some of the programmatic.
And before you open, just for the public's benefit, two things. This is more of a process matter in that this is how the federal government has us doing this. This isn't how we would do this. We have to put together a package by a deadline, and then we get notified if you get the money to do what you propose to do with it. So that's out of our control. That's just the process. And Anthony's responsibility is to manage timeliness. So any concerns that we would have about not spending money in the appropriate time frame is a direct evaluation matter for him. So he takes it very seriously and personally, as he's turning red right now, and knowing that his goal is to make sure that the funds get spent, because he's heard from me, we don't send money back to the federal government, and I would like them to not take any back as well. So the goal is to make sure that we're managing it appropriately.
It's heard loud and clear.
Any other questions from council? If not, I will open up the public hearing. Would anyone from the public like to speak on the annual action plan? If not, I will close the public hearing, and this is the first of two readings, and is there agreement we can put this on a consent agenda item for May the 5th?
This would be for all three of the resolutions under number 8.
Yes.
Motion to do that?
We don't need a motion.
Oh,
If
to
it's- if
put it on the
it's
consent
second,
agenda?
pass it on.
Oh, yes, consent agenda then.
So all three of these go,
To consent.
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Lloyd, are you okay with that?
I guess. I still have not seen how those numbers add up, but I guess it doesn't really matter either.
The unallocated line item is the only number that's missing. So you should have roughly $49,000 that is
Yeah.
not identified as going to a source.
Michael, are you fine?
That's fine with
Yep,
me.
I'm fine with it as well. Okay, then the next item on the agenda is, let me make sure, I think I have one more on this page,
As long as that's a resolution we end up getting presented.
is a resolution allocating $35,000 FY '25 for the Charlottesville Affordable Housing Fund as emergency grant for the Blue Ridge Area Coalition for the Homeless. Mr. Williams?
Yes. Good evening, members of the public, councilors, Mayor. Antoine Williams, I'm the Housing Program Manager with the Office of Community Solutions. The item concerns the allocation of an emergency grant from the Charlottesville Affordable Housing Fund in the amount of $35,000. The funding comes from the remaining balance of the FY 2025 CAF grants program, which at the time of its allocation, the program that is, had a total amount of $823,000 that was made available through application and some guidance from the executive leadership with regards to processes. There now, after all of the WARP recommendations have been put forward, that request was not, that total amount was not fully expended with the requests that were presented. That amount, in terms of requests that were awarded, added up to about $788,000, which left a remaining balance of $35,000. Council, through a various of serious discussions, reserved $35,000 to allocate at its discretion to BRAC, the Blue Ridge Area Coalition for Homelessness. BRAC is our lead agency in our region's continuum of care and vital partner in housing-focused homelessness support. The $35,000 will help that they will ensure that they continue core operations under their supportive housing program. Due to potential for interruption of critical services, this funding request is deemed an emergency request.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this?
So basically, as part of our budget, we discussed covering a grant that the Blue Ridge Area Blue Ridge Area Coalition for the Homeless had lost. Is this just contributing part of covering that amount?
Correct. So there are no new appropriations required in terms, let's say it differently, the funding's already there. This just kind of reclassifies it to be appropriated for this specific use.
Okay, thank you.
If not, can I get a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve this.
Second.
Second, can we vote? Motion passes. Thank you very much. I think you're done for today, man. It's been a long, long day. Yeah.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
The next item is a resolution of intent to participate in a biophilic city program. Crystal?
Good evening, Mayor Wade and City Council. My name is Crystal Rittervold. I am the Director of the Office of Sustainability, and I'm joined here this evening by a number of colleagues: Rob Mathis, our Landscape and Natural Resource Manager; Steve Gaines, our Urban Forester; Director Anthony from Parks and Rec. We also have J.D. Brown, who is a Tree Commissioner and Program Manager for Biophilic Cities; Professor Al-Kafif from the UVA Department of Architecture; and Dan Frisbee, who is somewhere between there and here, who is our Water Resources Specialist. So we're happy to be here this evening, as the city has been encouraged to apply to participate in the Biophilic Cities program, which was initiated at the University of Virginia in 2011. The program is a global network of cities, scholars, and advocates who work to build an understanding of the value and the contribution of nature in cities to the lives of urban residents. The network places nature at the core of design and planning and works to create opportunities to learn about and connect with nature. So tonight I'm here on behalf of this interdepartmental team with a request to apply to participate in the network. Next slide, please. I'd like to start off by introducing the term biophilia. I'm sure it's not the term most of us have tripped over regularly. It is a term that was popularized by the well-known biologist and naturalist E.O. Wilson to describe what he saw as humanity's innate tendency, essentially to be drawn to nature, to feel an affinity with nature, to love it, and to have a craving for it. So what does biophilia look like? And the next series of slides, I do want to note they are real images from Charlottesville. They're real people, they're real plants, and they're real animals from Charlottesville. This is not stock photography. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Biophilia looks like a sense of peace and well-being experienced when spending time in nature. Next slide, please. It is an attraction to nature and natural landscapes like forests and oceans. Next slide, please. It's the enjoyment of animals and of plants. The next slide, please. And more animals and plants, including the small varieties. And the next slide, it also includes a preference for natural materials and designs in architecture and interior spaces. And many of you will recognize Downtown Transit Station, the inside of the Gordon Avenue Library, the planters in front of the Public Works, Public Utilities Admin Building. Next slide, please. The concept of biophilia, while not called out with that term specifically, is already integrated in the city's comprehensive plan. You can see the priority area statement: keep Charlottesville green, make it greener, and protect the natural environment and the many benefits that it provides. And it actually is also embedded in the vision statement for Chapter 7 with reference to healthy air, water, and ecosystems, ample, high quality, and accessible open spaces, natural areas, preserved and enhanced tree canopy. Next slide, please. Charlottesville has actually incorporated biophilic city principles or biophilic principles in a number of major policies and programs, including the Comprehensive Plan, the Rivanna River Corridor Plan, the Climate Action Plan, the Development Code, the recent Parks and Recs Master Plan, the Urban Forest Master Plan, which we're in the process of updating, and the Water Resources Protection Program. So there are actually numerous efforts that exist through which visitors and residents can interact with and benefit with nature in the city. And again, I'm not going to read these, but it touches on healthy and robust urban forest, network of water resources, appreciation for native species and biodiversity, the role of nature in addressing and responding to climate change, 2,300 acres of green places, biophilic design in these public projects, bike ped trails, gardens, urban farms, and last but certainly not least, numerous community-based organizations in this community that exist for the purpose of biophilic activities. Next slide, please. So I'd like to take a moment to cover the Biophilic Cities program itself. And as you see on the slide, the program partners to build understandings about these principles. It facilitates the vision of natureful cities. It supports concerted conservation efforts. It celebrates all forms of natures and the ways in which citizens and inhabitants benefit. And this is important even and especially in a time now with a shifting landscape and a lot of changes and uncertainties about environmental and stewardship and sustainability efforts. Continues to emphasize the importance of daily contact with nature and then also acknowledges city responsibilities in this space. There are a number of additional and intriguing efforts that the city is exploring and can access information and experiences through by being part of this global network. It will provide opportunities to learn about strategies and solutions that global, not just nationally, but globally, other communities are doing. Additionally, there is strong community interest in pursuing a regional approach to this biophilic work, and we have members in the public and colleagues at the university and in Albemarle County have all expressed interest in pursuing this, not just as a city. We always say our watersheds don't know boundaries, our trees don't really care which jurisdiction they live in. The county and the city, green spaces serve each other well. So to become a partner, the city must submit an official resolution, which is in front of you this evening, a narrative statement describing what we have done and what we are looking forward to doing, as well as a list of indicators by which we can assess and evaluate our progress over time. The partner cities designate a network point of contact and coordinator, which would be myself. If we can go to the next slide, please. There are a number of benefits associated with biophilia. Nature has the potential to amaze us, to stimulate us, and to propel us to want to learn more and understand our world more fully. Natureful cities increase opportunities that increase tourism. Biophilic elements invite exploration and exercise. A walk in nature reduces stress hormones while boosting the immune system. Studies have concluded that nature improves cognitive skills and academic performance. Test scores go up. And urban greenery facilitates creative performance and creative reasoning, and daylight spaces increase laughter. If we can go to the next slide, please. I wanted to pull out a quote from the Biophilic Cities founder, Professor Tim Beatley, who states that a biophilic city is a green city with abundant nature and natural systems that are visible and accessible to urbanites. And he comments that while it's certainly about the physical conditions, it's also about the spirit of the place. It's about the emotional commitment and the concern about nature and other forms of life. It's a budget prioritization, and it is reflected in the lifestyles and the life patterns of the city, of the citizens. So if we go to the next slide, it's a relatively small, but it is a very tight global network. There are 32 international communities that are members, 16 of which are U.S. cities, 4 of which are in Virginia, so we would be the 5th one, and it, I think, presents a pretty interesting opportunity in the Commonwealth to be, one of 5 of 16. And then if you would go to the next slide, that's it. And I hope your blood pressure has come down.
Yeah.
And I'm here if you have any questions. And if you are inclined to pass the resolution, our next step will be to put together the application. And I'm sure some of the colleagues in the room would also be happy to answer questions.
I'll be interested in hearing from the professor. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. On the spot?
Good evening. My name is Mona Al-Kafif. I'm an associate professor at the School of Architecture, but also responsible for urban design and environmental planning. And I'm a colleague of Tim Beatley, who is currently on a sabbatical, but J.D. Brown is here as well. And I have colleagues from the Natural Heritage Committee, because I'm somehow wearing two hats. I'm also a member of the Natural Heritage Committee, and we are very interested in this committee. We work actually on this already for quite a while, from the county perspective, to put forward, let's say, an approach that would make Albemarle County and Charlottesville the largest or the first biophilic region on this planet. I mean, it's an incredible opportunity to work together to cherish and protect the resources that we have. And there was recently a very beautiful article in the Daily Progress, and I can say that I received many, many emails from citizens and volunteers and people who do on a daily basis a lot of work to protect and engage with our environment. And it's a moment to basically commit to this value that we all have and work on. It's a huge group effort. JD, do you want to say a couple of words? I mean, you are basically working with Tim on running the whole network. It's a global initiative with amazing other cities who are partners in the Biophilic Cities Network.
So we're putting everyone on the spot now.
Sure,
so
sure.
it's like
Sure. I don't want to kind of overstate kind of the resolution and the application. Is really about participating in this global network where it's an exchange of ideas, finding out what other cities are doing, using this as an opportunity to be a talking point, an opportunity to bring together some of the folks in this community who are interested in this work, who are doing this work, around this concept, things that the city is already doing, but potentially could be another supporting mechanism, whether that's through funding or sharing of resources with others in this network. But we like to say, I mean, there's no reason not to be joining this network, because it really just expands on what the city's already has as a priority.
There are basically only benefits and no costs, I would say. And we started applying for flash grants, so we received a flash grant from the Jefferson Trust to have an exhibition in the fall, which would then feature hopefully both the city as well as the county committing to the biophilic city region. And we are continuing to submit grants so that we can also work with students on this topic. And my thought in the whole progress is to engage design students and planning students and landscape architecture students to help building design kits, toolkits, that, for example, would allow an elementary school to have a pollinator garden. So the whole idea is that everyone can contribute and participate in this effort.
Thank you. Doesn't surprise me that Professor Beatley had a hand in this. I was in his class, environmental class 37 years ago.
He was super disappointed not to be here today.
Yeah. He's been around. So, thank you. So, any questions or comments from council on this?
Yeah, Ms. Rudevall, if you've got a second. So, I certainly support this. I think it's, I can see the value that it has in many different ways. From a tangible perspective, I mean, what does this, can you help me think through what sort of practical things might result from this in terms of how the city does work? Do we feel like, particularly as we're doing this new zoning ordinance, is there any risk that some rules we have with this limit us in our, I'm just trying to be realistic. I mean, I support this, I mean, who couldn't? But I'm just wanting to make sure there's not something that we don't know about that will hinder us from making some other decisions that we need to make, particularly around land use.
I think it's fair to say that there's nothing that's going to restrict us. I think this is really about, is this part of the fabric of this community? Is this part of what people feel is part of Charlottesville? Does it help frame what we're doing and why we're doing it with some other benefits or some other language, some other awareness? I've said to a number of people, including JD, that we've said it together with Tim Beatley. We kind of act like a biophilic city. We've just never assumed that label.
Yeah.
And I think what it does is mostly offer us access to other communities, many of who are very urban areas that are wrestling with a lot of the same challenges about how do you do everything in the spaces that you have no space for, right? And maybe there's some strategies, and whether they are small micro forests that are popping up in, that come from Japanese culture, right?
Yeah.
There are communities that are trying to adopt some different ways of doing things, appreciating the small green space outside of buildings has great value for the people who are inside of those buildings. It doesn't always have to be a monster park, but it is really a network, both of how we think about our natural living surrounds that essentially define humanity to a large extent. And it is a new thing for cities to say, nature's one of our values.
And so your work with climate, you feel like this would augment that?
Oh, yeah, I think it's very well aligned.
Okay.
And it also, I think it also underscores that as much as I love a tree, as much as the next person I've been known to hug them, trees are not the solution for everything. And so in our urban area, there are some other solutions, and we may not have uncovered them all yet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I certainly support this. I'm just wanting to make sure we're not signing up to something we've not thought about unintended consequences.
No, I think it's just opportunities.
Okay, thank you.
I guess to follow up on that, kind of the other side of the coin almost, obviously we're doing a lot already, and I fully support, the resolution to send in the application. I would just guess, I know like in the Daily Progress article, it mentioned thinking about urban planning in cities almost as being in totality kind of like a park or public space, which I support, but obviously that would require a lot of shift away in terms of how much the free market dictates in urban planning, as well as limitations we face in terms of state level legislation and the distinction between land we own versus that the private sector owns, all of which is to say kind of in order to meet the benchmarks of this coalition, I would guess we would need a lot of additional policies beyond what we're doing now. And I'm curious kind of what, if it is known, kind of what the scale of those changes would be, or what kind of new additional initiatives would be required.
Yeah,
because I'm guessing we're just not all the way there yet.
I don't think that there's a line that says you have now met the biophilic cities.
So it's not like a LEED certification?
It's not like a certification. I think it's more about a culture. It's more about a philosophy. It is about looking at your policies and programs with a lens that says nature has value. And, I think we have another great benefit that our NDS director, coming from Arlington County with the planning department, has had a lot of exposure and experience with how Arlington County has integrated it into some of their planning documents and some of their redevelopment projects. And so I think we have, even within Virginia, some opportunities to learn.
Yeah, I don't think I can articulate it any better than Crystal has already articulated it, but this is not a certification process. There's no binding set of minimum standards that have to be adopted. It's really what the city's plans and policies are already asking for, meeting those objectives. The indicators are set by the city themselves to kind of measure where they want to go towards their own aspirations. So,
Yeah, okay, thank you. And that's fine. Like I said, I do support it, and I think we are doing a lot. I think there's just practical limitations that we're not all the way there. So
Yeah, and I think there's some just practicality. I think when you are accepted as a member, that's a 2-year period of time, and then you can renew. And so if it's not a good fit, we have another conversation.
Yeah. Well, and I think the only risk is just that it doesn't really change all that much, but there's no, doesn't seem like there's any negative downside risk.
Well, I think the opportunity, as was just presented, is if the county is also interested and the university is interested, we have some ability to just do more of that together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, getting access to a network, I think, is a good thing.
My only question is, I'm sorry if you talked about this already, but are you presenting to the county? And are they, what's their
I am
role
not
in this?
presenting. to
Or,
the
sorry,
county.
is the group?
It's my understanding that the
Yes, of
Natural
course,
Heritage
not
Committee,
you.
no, it's my understanding
the
that the Natural Heritage Committee has presented or is presenting.
Do you mind talking to the mic so people
Do
at
you
home
want to
can
come
hear,
up here
please?
and
Thank
speak
you.
for the county?
I can. Hello, my name is Christine Putnam, and I serve on the Albemarle County Natural Heritage Committee, which is an advisory committee to the Board of Supervisors, so that's all we are. But certainly, we hope to bring this in front of the board and recommend that they do become part of the network and join the city if the city chooses to become part of the network. But that is our hope. And I think that there is some interest in the county to do that, but I can't speak for them.
A document, the Rivanna River Corridor Planning Project is a really good example of the city and the county working together cross borders on a natural resources planning initiative.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Because I'm just thinking, like you said, the regionalism here matters when, species and pollen don't stay in their designated localities. But also, on a broader environmental scale, the apartment complex we build here may prevent the sprawl in the county. And so we preserve nature that way. And that sort of kind of collaboration would be just good to have on this level too.
And that was kind of my question, was that if we got a proposal for an apartment complex or, something that provide more housing, that we wouldn't be able to do it, or be some stipulations because of this new, if we were to get this designation. So it
If
sounds
we
like
join
it's
the
not.
network, it will not limit your consideration of those type of proposals.
Yeah, so I'm supportive of this. I realized many years ago the importance of nature is the community. Of James, you appreciate this. It was the planning department did something many years ago before iPhones and things were so prominent that the planning department, they had a meeting, they were updating the plan or something, and they gave the residents a disposable camera and said, take pictures of what you value most in your neighborhood. And so I just moved to St. Charles, it's in Locust Grove neighborhood, and everyone, not everyone, but the vast majority took pictures of the Northeast Park. In particular, kind of it's a little wooded area there that the kids play in, this little creek there, and so, it's a bridge there, so it was clear that is what the residents in that neighborhood value, that nature, just kind of being able, that little pocket park, being able to kind of get away, and they truly, we have foxes and all types of deers and things in that little area. So, it sounds like we have a support for this. Can I get a motion to approve it?
I move the resolution of intent to participate in the Biophilic Cities program.
Second.
Okay, can we vote? All right, passes. Thank you so much. Thank you and your crew for
And
coming.
Happy New Year's, Happy Earth Day Eve. Happy New Year's, Happy Earth Day Eve.
All right, thank you. Thank you. The next item is, we have a few written reports. It's the last opportunity for community matters. Would anyone like to speak? Oh, okay. The next item is adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move adjourn.
Second.
Everyone vote. Thank you. Have a nice evening.